So welcome back. In the previous video, we talked about comparing, using the if condition to find the larger of the two numbers. And in this video, we're going to write a program using if conditions to find the largest of the three numbers. And here I'm going to introduce an AND operator in this program. In the previous examples, you saw OR operator. It's a Boolean operator, right? And in those examples, we saw how the OR works. In this example, I will show you how this AND operator works. And again, our plan is to take three numbers from the users and find the largest of the three numbers. And the first number that I take from the user, I'm telling the computer to put it in this cell called num1. And the second number that I take from the user, I'm telling the computer to put it in this cell called num2. And the same third number that I take from the user, I'm going to tell the computer to put it in a cell called number 3. And the plan here is, once we collect the data from the user into three cells, how do you find the largest of the three? So we don't know. As a programmer, you don't know what numbers the users have typed. You don't know, right? But you know that whatever the number that user typed is sitting in these cells here. It's sitting over here, sitting over here. These cells contain those three numbers. So the plan here is, what do you want to do? Compare this with number 2 and compare this with number 3. So the plan here is, if the number 1 is bigger than number 2 and number 1 is bigger than number 3, then obviously that guy is the bigger guy, right? Biggest guy. So that's what we're going to do here. This is the first if condition, where we are checking if the number 1 is bigger than number 2, and you got to use an AND operator. Number 1 is bigger than number 3. Then you say the largest of the numbers is number 1. And the second if condition here, what are you checking here is if the number 2 is bigger than this guy and number 2 is bigger than that guy. If the number 2 is bigger than number 1, number 2 is bigger than number 3, and obviously you know number 2 is the bigger guy, right? So that's what you're checking in the next if condition. If number 2 bigger than number 1, and don't forget the word and, number 2 is bigger than number 3, and obviously the message that you want to display, the largest of the three numbers is number 2. And the third possibility, obviously, and you should always think about different possible scenarios. Third possibility is, you are checking to see if the number 3 is bigger than number 1. If the number 3 is bigger than number 2, then you know that number 3, whatever is in number 3, is the biggest. So that's what this if condition is checking over here. Number 3 bigger than number 1, number 3 bigger than number 2, the largest of the three numbers is number 3. And the fourth possibility you should always check is, what if all the numbers are equal? So don't forget to use the double equal sign if you want to compare the two numbers. So here number 1 is, if you're checking to see if the number 1 is equal to number 2 and number 2 equals to number 3, and then you obviously say all the numbers are equal. So that's the basic plan. And if we want to test this program over here, as you see, I've taken the three numbers. I ask the user to enter the first number that goes over here. Second number arrives into this memory cell. And the third number that user types arrives in the program in this memory cell. Remember always, the first number that user types arrives into this number cell in your program. Similarly, the second number that user types arrives into number 2, and the third number that user types arrives into number 3. And the first if condition is, if the number 1 is bigger than number 2, remember this is greater than symbol, and number 1 is greater than number 3, then you display the message, the largest of the three numbers is number 1. So let's put a breakpoint over here, put a breakpoint, make sure the debugging is turned on, and I'm going to run this program. So it's asking you to enter a number, and this is again the user window. Here I'm going to type 24. and 12. Third number is 30. Press enter. It did not stop over here because I did not turn the debugging on. One more time, run it. First number 24, second number 12, third number 30. Now it stops over here. As you know how to debugging, hover over each one of these cells. So is number 1 bigger than number 2? Yes, that means this condition is true. So the first condition is true. And the second condition is number 1, which is 24, is it bigger than number 3? No, 24 is not bigger than 30. So the second condition is false. So you have basically two conditions here. This is the first condition, and this is the second condition. When you have an AND operator in between the condition, both conditions will have to be true. The first condition will have to be true, second condition will have to be true. If one of them is false, then the whole thing becomes false, right? So in this case, the first condition is true, 24 is bigger than 12, but the second condition is false. Remember what I said, when you have an AND operation, when one of the condition is false, the entire thing becomes false. Doesn't matter. You may have 100 conditions there, and 99 of them are true, and one is false. Then the whole thing becomes false. That's how the AND works. So since this is false, it's going to skip over the next line. As you see, boom, it skipped over the next line. So now it's my computer is checking for the second if condition. And the second if condition, you are checking to see if the number 2 is bigger than number 1. Is number 2, what is in number 2? 12. Is it bigger than number 1? Obviously, no. Is number 2, 12, bigger than number 3? Obviously, no. So that means that condition is false. That condition is false. As I said, if one of the condition is false, then the whole thing becomes false, especially when you have the AND here, right? So it is going to skip over the next also. So similarly here, in this, we're checking to see if the number 3 is bigger than number 1. So is number 3 bigger than number 1? Yes. So first condition is true. What about the second condition here? Is number 3, which is 30, is it bigger than number 2, which is 12? Yes. So the first condition is true. Second condition is also true. Since both conditions are true, the whole thing is true. If the whole thing is true, now it is going to run this line. So watch here what happens. See, it reaches that line, and here it displays the message. The largest of the 3 numbers is 30. And now what about the last one here? Are they equal? So here they are not equal. So first condition is not going to be true. Second condition will also be not true. So now it's going to skip past that line as well. Now the program is ended. And here is the output. So now if we have to run it one more time, let's quickly run through it one more time. Now this time we'll make the first number biggest, 39. Second number 34, third number 60, let's say 6. So now is number 1 bigger than number 2? True. 39 bigger than 34. Is number 1, 39 bigger than number 3? True. So first condition is true. Second condition is also true. It means the whole thing is true. So it will reach the number, the line number 7, and displays the message. And second condition is false, and the third condition is also false, and the conditions, the if condition on line number 15 is also going to be false. So this is how you can find out if you want to find the largest of the 3 numbers, by using an if conditions and also using an AND operator. Then now you may be thinking, what if I have 1,000 numbers? I need to find the largest. And do I need to have 1,000 if conditions? It doesn't make sense to have 1,000 if conditions. You will be sitting a whole day writing the program with 1,000 if conditions. There is a better technique for that, using something called loops that we will discuss in the later video. But what the purpose of this video is to demonstrate you can have multiple conditions, and You can use an and in between. And when you have an and operation, both conditions will have to be true for the whole thing to be true. So in the next video, we're going to talk about something called Boolean operators and the truth tables. So we have already learned about, we just learned about and we had learned earlier about or. There are other Boolean operators like NOR, XOR, and all of that. But since it's a beginning programming class, we're going to limit the scope of our discussion to just these two operators. Then we'll talk about truth tables. So that's in the next video. Thank you.